Legend of Exorcism. Scroll I, Fox Beauty. Chapter 1, Three Sages of Yaojian. An evening breeze blew by, the leaves of the parasol trees covering the mountains rustled, casting shadows with the remaining light of dusk, as if drawing open the curtains to a very long yet beautiful dream. When one wanted to cross the Yellow River, it would be frozen over with ice. When one wanted to ascend the Taihang Mountains, the passage would have long since been sealed by a vast expanse of snow. The azure sky extended for as far as one could see. The summit of Taihang Mountains was covered with snow all year round, merged into one with the floating clouds drifting through the horizon. This place was beyond the reach of ordinary birds. Only a few white falcons hovered high up in the sky, facing the bitingly cold gales as they turned into several black spots that dotted the dark blue sky. A giant bird clutched a bundle wrapped in cloth in its claws. It flew through the clouds, spreading its wings wide as it did so. In the twilight, golden rays of light reflected off its feathers when it swooped down and flew towards the cloud enveloping the top of the mountains. After breaking through the clouds, dazzling palaces appeared in the middle of the Taihang Mountains, surrounded by several mountain peaks. The outer walls of the palaces looked like they had been dyed with a layer of red flames in the dusk. Snow never accumulates within the palaces all year round, instead the grounds were filled with verdant parasol trees. It seemed like midsummer under the splendid sunshine. An evening breeze blew by, the leaves of the parasol trees covering the mountains rustled, casting shadows with the remaining light of dusk as if drawing open the curtains to a very long, yet beautiful dream. The giant bird landed on the platform outside the main palace. Accompanied by a prolonged cry that echoed through the mountains, it shook open its glittering plumage with a whoosh that seemed to cover the earth, then drew the wings back to its body again. When the plumes that filled the sky dispersed completely, a tall, young man appeared in its midst. The man was nearly 9 chi tall. He had distinct facial features and dark gold glinted within his pitch-black eyes. His upper body well-defined muscles rippling down his abdomen while his skin was tinted bronze from head to toe. He wore a black monarch skirt embroidered with golden patterns that fluttered freely in the wind. He held a bundle in his hands as he walked slowly towards the main palace. The palace was filled with young men and women who were walking through. When they saw the man, all of them immediately fell to their knees. King Qingxiang. The skirt of the man called Qingxiang billowed out behind him as he passed through the atrium that was filled with parasol trees, making his way deeper into the main palace. Night quietly fell. The lamps were not yet lit in the main palace. Amidst the natural light shining in, there were 3 thrones located high up in the palace. 2 were empty, and a red-haired man dressed in an equally vibrant red garment sat on the middle throne. His crimson hair seemed just like a blazing flame. His royal robe appeared to be a dazzling reddish gold even within the dark room, as if a glorious morning sky was flowing through the luxurious material. A long, blazing plume that extended from his belt sat heavily across the ground. The royal robe on his upper body hung loosely from his shoulders, exposing his fair skin and powerful muscles. When he heard the sound of footsteps, he looked up, and his eyes met with Qingxiang's. He was the king of this palace, and the ruler of the snow region and firmament. Very few people in the world knew about the revered name Chongming now. Close to 200 years had flown by, the dynasties of the Divine Land had changed, and its former fame had vanished without a trace from history long ago. He had a handsome face, blade-like eyebrows, and naturally radiated a dignified and stately air. A burn scar could be seen on his neck, the swollen skin extending all the way down below one of his ears. After a prolonged silence, Qingxiang finally spoke. When Kong Xian died, he left you an orphan to raise. How did he die? Chongming asked coldly. Qingxiang shook his head very slowly, and the palace fell deathly silent. I won't raise the progeny of him and some human, Chongming said indifferently. Go to the sacrificial cliff in the back mountains and find some place to throw it away. Qingxiang lowered himself on one knee and put down the bundle in his hands. When the wrap landed, it gradually grew larger and opened up. The 4 corners embroidered with lotus patterns emitted a dull luster, and when it was fully opened a boy appeared in the cloth. The boy lay curled up on his side. He had beautiful features, but wore a ragged sackcloth robe around his petite body, his small chest rising and falling with every breath. He held something in his hands, and his curled-up posture looked like his attempt to protect the important item in his arms. In terms of human age, he's 4 years old now, Qing Xiang continued. Chongming watched the child quietly. Qing Xiang picked up the child. When he held the boy in his arms, the child wriggled out of discomfort. He looks just like his father when he was little, Qing Xiang said. With the child in his arms, he moved up the steps and stopped in front of Chongming. He whispered, "Look, eyebrows." Chongming didn't change his reply. "I said, kill it." Qing Xiang handed the child to Chongming. Chongming didn't accept him, so Qing Xiang placed the boy against the man's body. The child moved again, as if he was waking up from a deep sleep. He felt Chongming's bare, yet warm chest and inadvertently grabbed onto the royal robe. At the same time, the item in his hand slipped out. It was a green peacock feather. "Give him a name." "I'm leaving." Qing Xiang moved away from the throne. "Where are you going?" Chongming asked icily. "You're leaving him by my side, but when I think of that woman, I'll kill him." "Up to you." Qing Xiang turned to face Chongming as he took a few steps backwards. Direnja's time is up. The human world is gradually becoming a land of yaos. The time for Mara's revival is at hand. I must discover the truth behind Kong Xian's death. And I'll be going now. After he spoke, Qing Xiang leapt up, unfurled his wings in the air and turned into the giant black bird. With a flap of his wings, he let out a prolonged cry as he flew out of the palace and into the night sky. When the child heard Qing Xiang's cry, he suddenly awoke. The peacock feather made of jasper stone slipped off Chongming's royal robe and landed on the floor, making ding, ding sounds as it bounced off the ground and rolled down the steps. The child's eyes turned to his hands. He realized that he was grabbing Chongming's royal robe, and when he looked up, he saw Chongming's gaze. A teardrop fell onto the child's face. With a bewildered expression, he reached out and caressed Chongming's face, helping him wipe away the tears. "Who are you?" the child asked timidly. "Hebei, Yuzhu platform." Bloody maple leaves swirled through the sky. One man and one woman stood in front of a building. The man was dressed in a blue gown while the woman looked beautiful and alluring. They leaned against the parapet as they overlooked the grandiose mountains and rivers. "Oh heaven and earth, how boundless and without end! I'm all alone, down my cheeks, tears keep rolling on," the man dressed in a blue gown casually uttered. "Bo Yu truly is an unorthodox genius. Why are you in such a refined mood all of a sudden?" The woman stood behind him and said leisurely, "After Direnja's death, the human world will gradually become a land of yaos. There's no need to be too anxious," the man in the blue gown muttered. "We still don't know if that old fart has any other backup plans. How's the preparation for Mara's host going?" The beautiful woman replied, "The host this time is perfectly willing, so the merger has been extremely smooth, but we still need to observe for some time. Speaking of which, aren't you afraid of stirring up trouble after killing Kong Xian? What if that man on Taihang Mountain stages a comeback? If he wanted to come, he would have done so long ago." The man chuckled. "Fortune was on the East Bank 30 years ago, but it turns to the west after 30 years has passed. The golden age of Yaojin Palace has passed. Chongming is trapped by the flame poison, otherwise he wouldn't have had to retire 200 years ago. Now, Chong'an belongs to both you and me." The music of a sizhu traveled over from afar. He approached the beautiful woman, smoothed down the hair at her temples and studied her face. He whispered, "Let's go, His Majesty is still waiting." 12 years later, in Yaojin Palace at the summit of Taihang Mountains, the sun shone brightly in midsummer and a motley of parasol tree shadows swept past like meteors. A young man wore a short and sleeveless gown in dark red. A robe embroidered with green patterns was tied at his waist, just like a piece of beautiful jade. He sat on the branch of a parasol tree as he blended a bowl of white pollen in his hands. From time to time, his lively eyes would look into the main palace through the open windows. Within the main palace, the gauze curtains fluttered in the wind. Chongming lay against the royal couch as he looked out at the mountains bathed in sunshine. Hong Jun. SHH. The young man called Hong Jun raised his finger as he looked down. The one who had called out was actually a carp yao that had both hands and feet. The yao looked extremely strange, its body was the torso of a carp nearly 2 chi long, while 2 human legs covered in body hair grew out from its torso so it could stand. 2 hands emerged from behind its fins, currently hugging the parasol tree as it cried out. Come down, quick! The fish yao's mouth was opening and closing as it spat out a few bubbles. The fish tail wagged as it urged, you don't know how to fly, if you fall and hurt yourself His Majesty will hit people. After blending the pollen, Hong Jun whispered downward, Father has been sitting inside for the whole day without wanting to see anyone. He'll lose his temper if anyone goes in. He's waiting for someone, the carp yao replied. His Majesty isn't in a good mood today. Hong Jun finished blending the pollen in his hands and asked, who is he waiting for? The carp yao hemmed and hawed. Hong Jun jumped down from the tree and quickly walked around the main palace. Along the way, wherever the young man passed by in Yaojin Palace, everyone would bow and call him Your Highness. Hong Jun would nod in response. After arriving at the back of the main palace, Hong Jun threw out a hook, flew up, and landed on top of the roof. He crouched low, silently moving across the palace to the roof above Chongming. He quietly lifted the glazed roof tiles, and with the medicine bowl in hand, he blew on it gently. The medicinal powder flew out from the bowl like it was alive and glowed with a white light as drifted into the room. The carp yao turned sideways and watched from a distance outside the main palace. Chongming faced the lofty Taihang Mountains as he dozed off on the couch. The crimson mark on his neck flashed. Pollen flew over, surrounding Chongming as it seemed to form a galaxy of light particles that gradually clung to the crimson mark and formed a layer of frost over it. The carp yao's mouth opened a little wider. Along with Chongming's even breaths, a little bit of the pollen was suddenly breathed in. Chongming suddenly opened his eyes and his expression turned extremely strange. I succeeded. Hong Jun thought to himself. He jumped down from the main palace and observed Chongming with the carp yao, only to see Chongming stand up in a hurry and observe his surroundings. His facial features twitched as he looked out of the palace. Father! Hong Jun was delighted, and just when he was about to call out, Chongming abruptly turned around. Ah! Shoo! Along with the earth-shattering sneeze from Chongming, a fireball the size of a carriage instantly burst out from within the main palace and shot straight towards the mountains outside with immense destructive force. It hit the mountainside with a loud rumble. The mountains shook. Within Yaojin Palace, the attendants instantly shouted in panic. It's an earthquake! Ah! Shoo! Another fireball shot out and destroyed one of the white jade pillars of the main palace. Hong Jun let out a loud cry, then grabbed the carp yao and lunged into the atrium to hide in the pond. Achoo! 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 Chongming sneezed 3 times in a row. Fireballs burst out and set the parasol trees in the atrium ablaze, and within an instant, the entire Yaojin Palace transformed into a sea of fire. There's fire! Put it out! A fireball fell into the atrium pond. The carp yao instantly wailed in anguish, it's so hot! Ah! Before anyone could register anything, Hong Jun grabbed the carp yao and climbed out of the pond. He scurried around under crumbling parasol trees that had caught on fire, then threw it over the wall before turning around and running towards Chongming. Father! Hong Jun ran into the main palace. There was already blazing fire alight within the room. Chongming covered his mouth and nose, glanced at Hong Jun, and Hong Jun quickly said, Father! I wanted to help you. Chongming immediately turned around and unexpectedly sucked in a breath of air. He couldn't hold it back anymore this time. Flames that could blot out the sky exploded out with a blast that turned the entire main palace into a blazing ocean. Smoldering flames surrounded Hong Jun on all sides, yet Chongming darted towards him and suddenly pulled the boy to his chest for protection. A phoenix cry pierced through the sky. Before anyone could react, multicolored wings unfurled from Chongming's back to defend Hong Jun and himself from the fire. It emitted a chrome-yellow light. Under the sacred protection of the phoenix, one wouldn't lose even a strand of hair on their body even if they were submerged in lava. Both of their garments were burnt until not a single thread was left, revealing their naked bodies. Hong Jun turned around to look at his surroundings. Yaojin Palace's main palace was already set ablaze by the sacred fire of Samadhi. Birds flew over from all directions, bringing along with them the accumulated snow within the Taihang Mountains. From bottom to top, they rushed towards the summit like a waterfall in reverse and whistled through the air as they filled up the interior of Yaojin Palace. The blizzard drowned out the flames in an instant before melting away. 2 hours later, black stains could still be seen on Hong Jun's face as he stood outside the study. Aya! The ruler hit his palm and Hong Jun cried out in pain. How many times does that make this? Chongming had changed into regular clothes and he held a ruler in hand. He said coldly, "Tell me." Hong Jun hemmed and hawed. Chongming hit him with the ruler again, and Hong Jun cried out again. "Do you want to burn yourself to death?" Chongming chided angrily. "Stand in the front yard until it's dark, otherwise you're not allowed to eat." Chongming hit him for the third time, and he hit him particularly hard, which even made Hong Jun's tears fly out. "Get your ass over there to face the wall!" Chongming shouted angrily. So Hong Jun could only hang his head as he walked across the yard to face a wall. The carp scratched the scales on its body and followed after. It squatted beside Hong Jun, then turned its head sideways to scoop up some of the melted snow in the yard to drink. Chongming was utterly enraged. He had to suffer such an unexpected calamity even though he was just lying down at home. When he walked out of the courtyard, he whistled and birds began flying over from all directions, carrying away the burnt branches and rubble with their beaks. "I told you not to mess around," the carp Yao said by his side. "How many times does that make this? Your father was originally in a bad mood today too. How would I know that he'd sneeze?" Hong Jun protested. "I searched painstakingly for 3 years just to find this snow lotus powder." "All of them already said," the carp Yao answered. "Your father's flame poison can't be cured, stop tormenting yourself." Hong Jun stopped talking. He stood in front of the wall as his punishment, and after standing for a while, he shifted his weight to his other leg, then shifted again and was a little bored. So, he started studying the burnt grey marks on the courtyard's wall. It looked like a landscape painting, so Hong Jun reached out and wiped it a bit to make out the outline of the mountain. He was greatly satisfied and thought it seemed quite like a splash ink painting. "Your father will scold you again if your hand is dirty," the carp Yao reminded. Hong Jun quickly answered, "I'll wash my hands before eating." In the afternoon, black smoke was still curling around the main palace. The embers were still warm, snow had melted everywhere and the ground was a mess. When Chongming saw this scene, he really felt like weeping but had no tears. The cry of a bird traveled over. A giant black bird covered in golden light flew towards the summit of the Taihang Mountains. When it landed, it turned into Qing Xiang, who was stunned when he walked past the atrium. "Why is this place in such a state?" Qing Xiang asked, astounded. He called a young attendant over and asked, "Did an enemy come by?" The attendant did not dare to answer and only said that His Majesty Chongming was waiting in a side palace, so Qing Xiang turned around and entered the side yard. End chapter. Tian Bao Fui Aolu. Chapter 2, Remnants of Old Times. Qing Xiang casually grabbed Hung Jun and dragged him off his back, then tickled him a few times. Hung Jun started laughing heartily. Qing Xiang ordered him to stand properly and asked, "Caused trouble again?" Hung Jun's hand had been covered in dust that was wiped all over Qing Xiang's face. Seeing how amusing he looked, Hung Jun could only point at him and laugh without restraint. Qing Xiang was baffled, so Hung Jun started explaining to him in vivid detail. After learning about how Chongming had lost his composure, he couldn't help but laugh as well. Both of them laughed for a while before Hung Jun said sternly, "What did you bring back for me this time?" "Gimme." Qing Xiang answered, "I don't have anything." Hung Jun didn't believe him, so he went up to search his body. Qing Xiang was usually bare to the waist, so he only had 2 pockets that could hold things. Hung Jun refused to give up and tried to fish something out of them, yet Qing Xiang replied solemnly, "I really don't have anything. No books, and no food either." Hung Jun pulled a long face. Qing Xiang laughed. "I brought you a few legends the last time, have you finished reading them all?" Hung Jun replied, "Flipped through them so much they're all worn out now." Upon seeing Hung Jun's face filled with disappointment, Qing Xiang couldn't help but want to tease him and asked again, "Where's your family's Zhao Zilong?" "He's here." Hung Jun called out, so the carp Yao skipped over. 5 years ago, he had inadvertently found this half-human carp whose attempt at becoming a human was unsuccessful in the Taihang Mountains, so he started raising it. Later on, Qing Xiang brought him some legends about the heroes of the 3 kingdoms. Hung Jun became excited and named this carp Yao Zhong Zilong, and even announced that it would jump over a dragon gate and transform into a golden dragon. Qing Xiang fished out something like he was performing a magic trick. He held up a chain between his fingers, there was a treasure hanging from the chain and he dangled it in front of Hung Jun for him to see. "What's this?" Hung Jun uttered in surprise. That treasure was extremely small and exquisite. It was a pendant linked to the golden chain. The pendant was made out of lapis lazuli, and the pendant was surrounded by layers of metal. There was an exceptionally small crystal ball in the middle, a gentle white light was faintly discernible within the ball, as if it was a lamp. When Qing Xiang handed out the pendant, the courtyard lit up as well. Its splendor was in no way inferior to the scorching sun in the sky. "I'll leave it in your care first." Qing Xiang placed the pendant on Hung Jun's palm. He coiled the golden chain and smiled as he said, "I don't dare to recklessly teach you how to use magic treasures anymore, lest I get scolded by your father." After obtaining this delicate plaything, Hung Jun immediately wanted to study it in detail, so he nodded. Qing Xiang exhorted again, "You must not break it. This crystal is very fragile, I'll tell you how to use it later." Hung Jun responded in a hurry before leaving with the necklace in hand. He's already 16 years old. When Qing Xiang walked into a side palace hall, Chongming was drinking tea. Qing Xiang sat down in front of a table and glanced at Chongming. "He caused trouble again today and got punished severely by me," Chongming said indifferently. Qing Xiang replied, "Youngsters tend to cause trouble. In the past, you, Kong Xian and I often caused trouble too." Chongming raised an eyebrow and said, "He's not ready yet." Qing Xiang replied, "I received this letter last night. It was sent out by the exorcism department in the human world. There's less than 4 years before Mara appears in this world again. The letter is calling upon young talents to return to Chang'an. According to my conjecture, they should be doing this to prepare for Mara's reappearance 4 years later." Qing Xiang handed Chongming a letter, yet Chongming didn't even spare it a single glance. He rubbed his fingers and a scorching ball of flame burst forth from his fingertip that was aimed at the letter. Qing Xiang wasn't willing to burn it, so he took it back. "Chongming, Yaos are running amok in the world now. The talents of Tang are in decline, there isn't enough time." Chongming turned his head sideways to look straight into Qing Xiang's eyes, then enunciated each word clearly, "Don't forget, we are Yaos as well. You still remember?" Qing Xiang said, "I thought you had forgotten long ago, Your Majesty, the Yao King." Chongming instantly exuded a formidable air, as if there were raging flames burning brightly within his body. His brows furrowed deeply, looking furious as he stared straight at Qing Xiang. In the study, Hung Jun first pried it with 2 throwing knives, then cut it with a pair of scissors, but he was still unable to take apart the metal gears outside the pendant. In the end, he hit it with a hammer, and even after hammering it so hard that his forehead was dripping with sweat, he was still unable to remove the small crystal in the pendant. Hung Jun picked up a bronze bottle and just wanted to smash the pendant with it. "Why are you fighting it?" the Carpiao asked from one side. "His Highness Qing Xiang warned you before to not break it." "I just want to take it out," Hung Jun said, "and attach it to my knife's hilt. The light inside it is definitely unordinary." The Carpiao climbed onto the table and stepped on a book, then lay down on its stomach. The pendant's blazing light was reflected in its fish eyes. "There's a circle of charms outside it." Hung Jun studied it as he said, "What on earth are those? Used for sealing it? This light looks so comfortable. I feel warm just by looking at it." The Carpiao said, "And I feel much better too." Hung Jun kept the pendant and said, "Let's go ask Qing Xiang. Your punishment isn't over yet." The Carpiao reminded him, but Hung Jun had already left excitedly with the pendant. The setting sun, blood red in color, passed over the mountains. Bird cries traveled over in waves from the mountain peaks bathed in the afterglow. When Hung Jun came to the side palace, he suddenly heard the sounds of a fierce dispute ring out within the hall. He got a fright and hid behind a pillar. That Black Jiao didn't obtain his status through proper means, he will never be the Yao King. He's but a reptile from a sewer, how could he be worthy? But we lost the war, that's the incontestable truth. Qing Xiang said in a low voice, "Unless we return to the human world and destroy him completely, otherwise when Mara revives and commands the Yaos, the human world will plunge into an abyss of misery." "What does it have to do with me even if they do plunge into an abyss of misery?" Chang Ming exploded. "Humans disregard morals at the sight of prophets and are all just an ungrateful bunch. They took Lao San, then threw the son of him and some human to me to raise for 12 years. Why do I have to raise an orphan who has the blood of humans running through his veins? He's still Kong Xian's child." Qing Xiang's voice sounded low, his tone of reproach obvious. "When Kong Xian passed away, didn't you feel the least bit remorseful?" "What remorse could I have?" Chang Ming was practically roaring. If it wasn't because that person caused Kong Xian's death, would Hung Jun have to be a child without his father or mother now? There are ungrateful humans who disregard morals for profit, but there are also human friends like De Renja. "Friend?" Chang Ming snickered. "He wouldn't do anything for the humans." "Definitely not." Qing Xiang's voice trembled. Kong Xian was one of the sacred devils. Hung Jun inherited his pentacolor sacred light, he can eradicate that Black Jiao for the Yaos, take revenge for his father and destroy the resurrected Mara. Besides, if you make him stay here all his life, he would discover the truth sooner or later. On the day I left the Central Plains, Chang Ming uttered in a low voice, I said that I would no longer care if the Yaos live or die. Mara? I only hoped that Mara would revive as soon as possible, then kill all of those damned humans. Can't you be a little more honest? Chang Ming. Qing Xiang suddenly took a step forward. An imposing air burst forth from his body, and suddenly, the side palace was filled with a threatening air. While the two confronted each other, the teacups on the tables hooked constantly, emitting soft clattering sounds, while the window panes shook as well. Suddenly, footsteps could be heard outside. Qing Xiang and Chang Ming withdrew their imposing airs at the same time and abruptly turned their heads. Qing Xiang took a few steps forward to give chase, yet all he saw was Hung Jun's back. When Kong Xian left, if you had said just one word to urge him to stay, how would it be like this today? Qing Xiang sighed. The last words you left for him were just get lost, and from then on, the living and dead are forever separated by the heavens. After he spoke, Qing Xiang strode out of the side palace, leaving Chang Ming alone to face the dusk outside the door, who quietly fell into a daze. At night, the sky was filled with stars and the starry river at the peak of Taihang Mountain seemed just like a waterfall. Footsteps could be heard from afar, yet Hung Jun didn't even budge an inch as he laid on a piece of flat rock on Sacrificial Cliff. The rock slanted downwards as it faced the cliff. If one was not careful, they could slide down into a bottomless abyss at any time. Ching Xiang climbed up and laid next to Hung Jun. Both of them were silently lost in thought as they stared at the brilliant night sky and starry sky. "Is it true?" Hung Jun suddenly asked. "Whether or not it's true or false, you already have an answer to that in your heart," Ching Xiang answered. Hung Jun couldn't stop gasping for breath, but Ching Xiang raised his hand and reached out to press down on his eyes. Hung Jun grabbed Ching Xiang's hand and wiped his tears on it. "Does father hate me?" Hung Jun choked as he sobbed. "What he says is often different from what he thinks," Ching Xiang said in a trance. "Don't blame him for what he says. If he really isn't willing, no one in the world would be able to force him. Do you still have what I gave you today?" Hung Jun took the pendant out as he trembled. "Didn't you want to go to the human world?" Ching Xiang took the pendant. The gentle light within the pendant illuminated half the mountain in an instant in tandem with the splendor of the stars that filled the sky. Under that light, Hung Jun gradually calmed down. "Whenever I come, you'd always make a ruckus to get me to take you to the human world. You're all grown up now," Ching Xiang continued. "I say, yes, go ba. Why be afraid?" Hung Jun was elated at first, then he immediately thought of Chongming and his expression turned gloomy again. He stared at Ching Xiang in a daze. Ching Xiang faced the glittering light in the pendant as he muttered, "There are a lot of things to eat in the human world, and there are a lot of fun things to do as well. There are beautiful ladies, friends you can drink with, music that can travel for 10 li, lamps that never die out whether it is day or night. Go ba, go to the boundless world of mortals. You won't regret it." The next day, the side palace had been cleaned up. Hung Jun walked into the side palace. The 3 thrones had been moved into the side palace. Chongming sat in the middle one while Ching Xiang sat on the left. Chongming's expression was as indifferent as ever. Hung Jun called out, "Father," then stood prim and proper in a corner. "I'm not your father." On the throne, Chongming's voice still seemed like it held no feelings. Hung Jun stood on the ground, feeling a little ill at ease. He replied to Chongming, "You're my father." Yet Chongming's gaze shifted and landed upon the third empty throne. "Your father's name is Kong Xian," Chongming uttered in a deep voice, "just like me and Ching Xiang, he's one of the masters of Yaojin Palace. You asked me before who sat on the last throne, and now I can answer you. The one who once sat on this throne was your biological father. After your father died, Ching Xiang brought you back to Yaojin Palace. Now that you've grown up, it's time for you to go back." "Where do I go back to?" Hung Jun asked. "You'll go back to where you came from," Chongming said lightly. "I belong here." Hung Jun added, "I'm not going anywhere." End chapter.